If you're watching these videos in an order, by now you should have some kind of understanding of how things are working. So these you should be able to get through quite quickly. So we now know that the head is the beginning. Now it's important to write it as it's written when you are answering exam questions. And we also know that the tail would be the end of the list, and that's again important to write it as it's written. So we've got Paris. All right. New Brighton. Speech marks, and Toronto. So that is our head, that is our tail. Notice the tail, because there's multiple items, we have to make sure we've got our brackets around that. Now, what we've got here is again a similar question. If you watch back to one of the first videos, it says the following notes are provided to help you to understand the syntax of the code. We've got an empty list here, which is declared as 0, but then we've got x and xs. You'll remember this from a previous question, and this is an argument to a function. All right, as an argument to a function, it splits it into two parts. So x is the head and xs is the tail. So we've got here the head. I'm going to put a h there and a t to acknowledge that that is the tail there. Now it says describe how the total function works to add up all the numbers in a list. Well, realistically speaking, now you can see that it is applied to the head first, then the tail. But I've run out of space here, so I'm just going to acknowledge how I would make sure that I've done that. So I'm just going to move this down here. All right. First thing you need to acknowledge is that it's recursive. All right. So you need to acknowledge that it is a recursive function in that it goes through the total of the list each time until it's null. All right. So it splits it. Acknowledge that it splits the list into a head and tail. All right. It applies the function to the tail first. All right. Then it calls itself within the tail that it was called within. So then it goes through the tail. And this is why, if you go back through notes, it's important to know when something is null, when it's empty, because that is how the function would work. It goes through that until there is no more items in the list, and it will keep adding that to the total. That's what's happening here. We've got xs, so we work out what x is first, which is the head, and we add it to, we use total. So again, that's the function that we created here. We use total of the tail here. Sorry, spelt tail wrong there. A-I-L. Okay, so that's what's happening there. Now, we use higher order functions because they are a function that takes a function, because you can see here we've got a function that takes a, not in this case though, takes a function as an argument and returns a function as a result. Alright, so you can't see fold here, but if you look back to the last video, you'll see evidence of where map and fold have been used if you look at the previous video. But this is where this question isn't very helpful to you because it doesn't show you examples of it. So this will rely on you remembering how you can pass in functions to those. So a function that takes in a function as an argument and returns as the function as a result. So if you look back to video 4, I believe it is, you'll be able to see examples of where that has happened. So you can see how these have been used to pass in arguments. So look back at that video to further understand that. Now, last but not least, we have a function here that says, what is the result of the fold function on this question? So what we've got here is fold, but we're using multiply. All right, we are starting at 1. The way this works is it would be 1 times 2, okay? Then it's calling on itself, because 1 times 2 will be passed in. So 2 would be the next number. So then it uses the value that it was on to then go to, so it would then go to 2 times 3, which gives you 6. Then it would be 6 times 2, which gives you the result of 12. So you can see it's using the value itself until it gets to the end of the list. And that is how we ended up with 12. So it's worth watching these back, having a little bit of a practice, and see how you get on.